You know what almost every little bit of piece tells me? Gonzaga is going absolutely nowhere. And the Pac-12 has already said they're not interested because it has to be a football school. And now, I don't think that it would have made sense for Gonzaga to go there anyway, but it seems that the feeling is mutual, so that is already out. The new Mountain West does not look like it's going to carry the weight that I think Gonzaga would want it to, especially now, without the top tier schools that are walking out the door and heading to the Pac-12. Unless something drastically changed when it comes to the shares that Gonzaga would receive from a new Mountain West conference, a reformatted Mountain West, I just don't see them looking at Gonzaga or Gonzaga looking at the Mountain West as a legitimate option. Also, considering if the Mountain West really wants this to salvage the football component, they're not going to look at a non-football school. They're going to look at someone who can help them on the football front, and Gonzaga obviously doesn't do that. And yes, there's been all the talk about the Big 12. Gonzaga was in a lot of conversations with them a year ago, this time of a year ago. We know UConn has also been part of those conversations. And I think the UConn conversation is the telling sign that Gonzaga will not be going to the Big 12, because UConn is coming off back-to-back national championships, is maybe the most successful college basketball program of the last 20 years, 25 years. They have a football program, albeit it's a bad football program, but they have an FBS football program. The Big 12 said, you know what, we're going to pause in this conversation. We'll get back to you later. If they said that to UConn, who checks off every basketball box imaginable, with a football program, and they said no, Gonzaga is not even in the conversation anymore. If the UConn standard was not good enough for the Big 12 schools, Gonzaga, without a football program, is just not going to be in that conversation anymore. And then, of course, that goes back to the Big East. Let's say UConn was accepted to the Big 12 and they decided to go that route. Yes, the Big East is left without another big school. Would they look to add? Possibly, probably. But who would it be? And the last round of changes, last round of that conversation with Gonzaga, it seemed like that was squashed because of a very basic thing that many Gonzaga fans don't have a problem with. But it sounded like almost every Big East coach and administration had a problem with, and that was travel. Traveling all the way to the West Coast to go play in Spokane for not only basketball, but for volleyball, for track, for soccer, for baseball, for softball, for all these other sports becomes not a manageable solution. Especially when, you consider that the furthest west school that anyone in the Big East has is Creighton. And even Creighton is another 1,800 miles away from Spokane. Sorry, I think that number's quite wrong, but it's not that short of a distance between Omaha, Nebraska, and Spokane, Washington. Again, as for reference, just on the mileage front, San Diego is closer to Spokane than Spokane is to Omaha. So every WCC school is within that distance of Spokane, where the closest Big East school would be even further away. And the number of things, I've always thought that the travel thing is going to end up being ridiculous in the long run. And I know, like, no, if you did basketball only, maybe you have an argument there. But that's not what the Big East is going to do. They don't want a basketball only school joining them. They want a program that's going to be able to help them across the board, a full member. That's what they want. And Gonzaga, they're going to continue to face the problem that they are just so remote to the Big East that it's not going to work. Now, if Gonzaga could literally pick up the entire school, move it 1,000 miles east, and then drop it down wherever, they'd be in the Big East already. There wouldn't even be a question about this. But the reality is that their distance causes a problem for the Big East. No football causes a problem for the Big 12. The crumbling Mountain West is just a problem for Gonzaga. And Pac-12, it's a football problem and also just a non-interest on both ends front. So again, checking off these boxes, just looking at what is left for Gonzaga, guess what? You're stuck. You're going to be right here in the WCC for at least the foreseeable future. I do not see the logical jump. Even, again, competitively, Gonzaga can play with anybody. That has not been part of this conversation at all. It has been football and distance. Those have been the biggest hurdles that Gonzaga has had to deal with, and they are not going away. Honestly, they cannot be fixed because Gonzaga's not getting a football program that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever to do. They're going to be in the WCC. They're going to be stuck with St. Mary's, stuck with USF, Santa Clara. Grand Canyon's coming in. Seattle's coming in. This is the group you're with. And let's be honest, it has not been a detriment to their competitiveness to be in the WCC. We've seen them in 9 straight Sweet 16s. They've been to the title game in 2 of those years in the last 9. They're getting there. They have the talent. Them playing a quote softer schedule in January and February has not hurt them in the long run. They're fine right where they are. If they do end up actually winning it all at some point, it will just make the story that much more impressive that they were able to do it from the WCC, from a conference that has not had a national champion since the Bill Russell days of USF.